What's up, trade crew? Welcome back to HVAC R&D, hosted by Rhydon. It is a beautiful and hot, almost officially summer day here in the Carolinas, and business is starting to ramp up. So let's get it, y'all. From the beginning of this show, I've always said that the trades industry is built on great people with great stories, and I want the trade crew to hear yours. Whether you're in the field turning a wrench or running duct, building a trades empire from your office, working the distribution counter, grinding a sales territory, repping or working for a manufacturer, or anywhere in between, HVAC R&D is the show about the power of conversation, collaboration over competition, and sharing real conversations from every corner of the trades community. And if you've got a story to tell, then I've got a microphone ready for you. So when you're ready, go check out the links to the HVAC R&D podcast questionnaire that are on all social media channels and on the website, and get in touch with me about joining an episode of the show. If this is your first time listening, thank you so much for sharing some time with me. If you're coming back show after show, thank you for helping me continue to make this dream of highlighting our trades a reality. Please make sure to smash the like and subscribe buttons on any and all streaming and social platforms where you follow the show, and please share with your friends and trade crew. If you aren't following the show, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at hvac.rnd, and on LinkedIn, Facebook, and TradeHounds as the HVAC R&D podcast. Please make sure to go check out hvacrnd.com and visit the swag shop for some cool merch and some Cajun Joe's Bayou Spice, and then check out the vendor hub for discounts on BetterHelp, Chirp, Service Titan, and my newest partner, SkillCat. So trade crew, today we are joined by Victoria Garcia Massimo, Director of North American Operations at a company called Airzone, and she is a rising voice in sustainable HVAC. With 12 years of experience, a background in product engineering and leadership roles in ASHRAE, Victoria brings a sharp perspective on zoning systems, inverter technology, and the future of efficient HVAC design. She's now based in California, and she is helping contractors and engineers stay ahead of the curve. So let's dive in. Victoria, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rhydon. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. I'm very excited. We had a nice few-minute conversation before we got this going and kind of get the conversation going. So I know you just actually moved out to California from Florida. So what kind of sparked that transition, and how have you been adjusting to a new, supposedly, as they say, relaxed West Coast lifestyle?
Well, yes. So as you mentioned, I recently moved from coast to coast. I wasn't born in the U.S. I'm an immigrant, but I've been living most of my U.S. life in Florida. So it's been a while. I was looking for a change, and the company was also looking for new opportunities on the West Coast. So things aligned very well, and that's why I decided, and the company decided to pretty much move me to the West Coast and start developing the market on this side of the country now. So I'm still very attached to Florida, but the idea is to really focus on the West Coast now. The reason is really more focused on the fact that California is no longer not only a pretty large economy, but it's also very focused on everything related to energy efficiency. The
Yep.
regulations here are very strict. Title 24 is, very complex. And I would say California is a pioneer on everything related to energy efficiency, efficient HVAC, to heat pumps, where Airzone mainly focus is, as well as, of course, the technology side of things. Many of, if not all of the biggest technology companies are also here. So yeah, those are the personal reasons as well as the business reasons why I moved.
Well, and interestingly, I'm based in North Carolina, and most of my HVAC career has all been in North and South Carolina. But North Carolina, for years and years, was always considered behind California to be one of the next or second to California in terms of how strict our building code was in terms of trying to build a positive and efficient home for people. So in some ways it's interesting to know that this state on this side is also, we're not at the California level, but there's a lot of very, very heavy influence on a highly efficient building code here.
I didn't know that fully. In my From my perspective, it is really the way at least we see things. Is we start with California, then these different regulations, these different ideas move into the Northeast, mostly New York, New England, and then they start being adopted in other parts of the country. I would say that in the Southeast, the Carolinas, mostly North Carolina, is where I do believe that the most of regulations and all of these things are not more strict, but I would say easily adopted, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to phrase it. What would you say has been your biggest surprise, kind of culturally or even professionally, um, from going from East Coast to West Coast?
Well, just being here for a few months is I don't think it's even been 4 months, so maybe my answer will change with time, and I'm still, in that adaptation process.
Honeymoon
People here
phase,
in
right?
California, yeah, they've been very open, open to collaborate, open to learn about new things. I think that in general, everyone here is more outdoorsy in a way. That's how people in California are. Everyone has a outdoor sport or an outdoor hobby. Everyone hikes, everyone camps, and that really it also ties into, I guess, all of this sustainability. There's more consciousness about the planet, the green movement, and then of course we can get more complex: decarbonization, electrification, and all of these things. So I guess it's kind of part of the culture in general, like more progressive, more into these topics that maybe in some other parts of the country, for instance, Florida, are not as important or as relevant, I would say, to the society in general. I guess it also depends on where you move, in which industry, in which social group, etc. This could be a debate, but in general, I believe that everyone has been very open and very willing to collaborate. Um, I guess that would be my answer. Maybe in a few months, I will tell you otherwise or other things to add to that.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you're saying it's, so many people have outdoor activities that they have as hobbies. And depending on what part of California you're in, those are going to vary from different things. But with, you guys have such a large state in terms of geographical area, but also in terms of geographical environments. So, Northern California, you've got forests and mountains and lakes and all kinds of things. And as you go down through California, you go into deserts and different arid climates. So there's so many different environments within one state that you guys hit. And North Carolina in some ways is similar. You guys are tall, we're long, depending on,
Exactly.
because
No,
we go
but
mountains to coast. Um, so that's very similar too. So there's, when you're not thinking about your zoning systems and high efficiency, I know you get into mountain biking and hiking and climbing. So if you could pick your idea California adventure you've not done yet, what would you go do?
oh wow, there's a lot still to, of course, explore. I just haven't even, I just started. So mountain biking for sure. That is my go-to sport. That's the one that I enjoy the most. It's funny because I grew up playing tennis and golf, but then I discovered this mountain biking thing being an adult, and I really fell in love with it. I really enjoy it a lot. So it would be mostly mountain biking and hiking. So the fact that here we have mountains and it's not too flat is definitely it's definitely something I'm enjoying a lot. The climbing is something I'm looking forward to. I've only done indoor climbing because obviously in Florida we didn't have any place to do like
Yep.
outdoor rock climbing. So I'm looking forward to getting into that maybe at some point. I'll check that out. we'll see, because that is a little bit more scary, I would say. So, and it's of course obviously totally different from the indoor climbing, but looking forward to it. And of course, keep exploring. As you said, it's so wide, so different. So one place that I really enjoyed when visiting here recently was Lake Tahoe. It was really, really amazing. So, and the funny part is that, if for those who don't know this, Lake Tahoe is so big that part of it is in Nevada and part of it is
Yep.
in California. I think it's two thirds California, one third is in Nevada. But South Lake Tahoe, which is the town in which you stay and stuff, uh, if you cross the street, it's like you're in Vegas, right? There's hotels,
Yep.
big buildings, casinos, which is very funny. And then you cross the street and you're in California. Everything's like, more very local restaurants, and everything's like cabins and woods and very small buildings, eco hotels. So it's super interesting. This so Lake Tahoe has really been the most beautiful place I've been in California. And again, there's still a lot to explore. National parks, Yosemite is nearby. I live in the northern part, so there's a lot to, of course, to explore. And actually, there is a place that I'm really willing to visit soon, called Mount Shasta. And
I've heard of Mount Shasta. Yep.
which is not, not so, because everyone knows about Yosemite, right? Everyone knows about all these
Hmm.
I mean national parks, but Mount Shasta is kind of not everyone knows about it, and there's a lot of um, mystery behind it due to the energy. Apparently, some sort of like energy spot from in the world or something like that. So very interesting. I'm looking forward to visit soon.
Well, and I had a customer who's also a very good friend. He and his wife just went out and went through Yosemite and Sequoia, and then a girl that I grew up with, who she and I've stayed close because our moms were both teachers in the same school, so we kind of grew up together in some ways. She actually just moved to Sequoia National Forest to take over a wildlife preservation project. Um,
Wow.
so after years of not getting to use her degree for what she wanted to, I'm proud she finally got to. So
That's
good on you,
awesome.
Tori.
That's
Proud of you.
great. No, and these type of initiatives like this one that you just mentioned, they while being here, I've noticed that there is a lot to it. So behind, beyond actually the codes, the regulations, and all of that, there's actually real efforts of people and organizations that are buying land and preserving it. Actually, I recently visited also Monterey and the Carmel area, and I was told, don't quote me because I don't know if it's true or not, that apparently Clint Eastwood had purchased some land there, and he is protecting it, or or something like you need to buy X amount of acres to actually develop like a property there. So that way you can make your big beautiful 10-bedroom home for two people, but it's in the middle of
Right.
nowhere. Like you have a lot of land around it. Yeah.
So as we talk about those different things, let's talk about how you got into HVAC altogether. Now, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, you immigrated from Spain, correct?
No, I immigrated from. That's funny. I immigrated from Venezuela. So
Oh,
Venezuela
then I need to
is
introduce you
a
to a good
no,
friend of
no
mine who's
worries
from
about that.
Venezuela.
So kind of, because my mom's side of the family, my mom was Italian, my dad's Spanish. So
That's where the
Venezuela
Massimo
in
comes from.
the 50s, it became that a very interesting and important hub for immigration from Europe. So that's why a lot of people from Portugal, from Italy and Spain mostly, but even other countries, even Germans and French, etc., they have from Venezuela. They have relatives from all of these countries. So a lot of our grandpas and grandmas moved to Venezuela in the 50s because Venezuela has the first or second largest, how do you say that, oil reserves in the world.
Hmm. Hmm.
So in the 50s, when the oil was discovered, the country started investing a lot of resources into developing the country. So a lot of these people knew about it, came over to Venezuela to start, working in different things. So it's funny because the Portuguese have the bakeries, and the Italians were very involved, like in construction. The Spanish, I don't know, restaurants and other things. So all of them had like all of these different professions, I would say.
So a
So
very
my
good, I was going to say a very
exactly.
good friend of the show, Brian from AC Products USA, is also from Venezuela. I need to hook you two up.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. Love to. So yeah, I immigrated from Venezuela.
So you come over here, and you've got a degree in product engineering. So how did you go from that degree? Did you initially get straight into HVAC, or did you kind of stumble into our fun little industry?
So actually, I was kind of born in the industry, I would say.
I know that feeling.
My father, he is a mechanical contractor. He's an engineer who owns a mechanical contracting company.
Okay.
So HVAC has always been, part of the family. And he actually got into that because my grandfather, when he immigrated from Spain to Venezuela, looking for, something to do to a profession, very, uh, young guy, no family, no support. He started studying refrigeration, so he started fixing actually refrigerators. And then my father was the first generation in the family that went to college. He got his engineering degree, and they started together this HVAC company that became, back in the 90s and the 2000s, one of the most important mechanical contracting companies for the region.
Gotcha. And I share the same thing. My dad was a heating contractor. He initially was Navy, and he was in a couple of different companies before he started his heating and air business. But he started it as a refrigeration technician, and that's how he got going in the mountains of North Carolina.
There you go.
So
Cool.
I feel you. We've got, in some ways, we have very similar backgrounds and how we grew up in it. Now, did you work in the business with them and kind of have hands-on field experience before you went into your engineering school, or how did
While
that work for
while
you?
in engineering school, yeah. So just a little bit, I would say. But yeah, while in engineering school, I did some like internships, let's say there. So I got to see some of the projects they were handling and working on before immigrating here to the U.S. and changing my path, I would say.
Well, and how was that hands-on experience in both engineering and operations? How has that kind of helped to mold your leadership role and your leadership style at Airzone now today? Since 1961, JP Lamborn Company has been the name behind some of the best flexible duct products in the business. A third generation family owned company that built its legacy on integrity, innovation, service. That same spirit drives them today, with antimicrobial technology, top tier materials, and a relentless focus on quality. When contractors need a product they can stand behind, JPL delivers. It's more than just flex duct, it's peace of mind. JPL, the name you know, the quality you trust, and the flex that delivers.
I guess that you need to know what you work on, so you don't really have to know exactly how everything works and how to do things, but it really brings you down to earth and makes you more humble on understanding how all these things work and how the processes are and how much time they take and all the hard work and effort that goes into actually building ductwork, designing it, installing HVAC units, and all that. So
Well, and you couldn't have said that any better, and I don't think I could agree with it any more than I do. One of the biggest things that I see in the distribution side is there are times when people are hired from outside of the industry into a sales role, and anytime that I ever work with those people or I start to deal with them, I say you guys really need to go spend some days in the field with your customers and see what they do on a day-to-day basis, because what you may assume is HVAC or what you think is HVAC or what you see on a DIY video on YouTube is not necessarily
totally.
what it is you're getting into and what these contractors see on a day-to-day basis. And if you really want to be able to grow with the customer and help to build value and show what you can bring to the table with a customer, you have to know what they're facing day to day, and you have to understand it and know what they're talking about before they start talking about it, because that's what allows you to build that rapport. So I think the fact that you come from it, you can help express that through more people, and that overall will lead to a more well-informed workforce that works for you in the long run.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. And some of the best salespeople I know, they come from that background. They used to be HVAC installers, and they transitioned into sales roles, but they really understand the struggles, the needs, the limitations, also what are really the needs, how these equipment operates and all that. So I couldn't agree more with you.
And looking at what you've done to kind of help promote the industry, you've also been a huge part of ASHRAE, which a lot of people that listen to the show all about AHR Expo. But ASHRAE is also the other show that happens typically the same time in another building somewhere else in the same area, which is nothing but engineers upon engineers and manufacturers meeting and going through things. And I know you have served as the president of the Miami chapter of ASHRAE. So, what did that experience mean to you in terms of both personal growth, but also for networking for the industry?
Well, actually, it's an amazing organization, really, especially if somebody who's not from here, as an immigrant. It really, gets you to connect with so many people on different levels. You get to meet contractors, manufacturers, you get to meet reps, distributors. You really get to meet a lot of people. So on a networking level is really amazing, and also on a personal level, as leadership levels here, it's really it's amazing how ASHRAE it educates you as well. They have all of these different trainings and courses that you got to take as becoming a president of the organization, and it really shapes you, I think, in a very professional way. So yeah, I do believe that also ASHRAE is an organization that has a lot of power, and many people don't know that, because all of these building codes and regulations and all of this, they really take ASHRAE into account. So ASHRAE has all those of these standards, and for instance, now with the refrigerant change, well, ASHRAE is really the one that is writing how what the limits are for refrigerant concentration to make it safe for leaks, etc. And really that's what all of these building codes everywhere are looking at to write their building codes, and to write how this equipment should be designed and installed. So we as ASHRAE members, we can be part of all of these, the writing of all of these standards. I'm a part of the ASHRAE VRF technical committee as well. We meet a couple times a year, and we really write these codes kind of in ASHRAE proofs, and then that is what will decide how everything gets installed, what is correct and what is safe. So that's very interesting, and that's how powerful ASHRAE could be as an organization, but also the benefit and the value it has for professionals.
No, absolutely. And ASHRAE is definitely very, very well known for promoting standards and innovation, as well as, being a driving force behind the momentum that's helped push for sustainability and further electrification and higher efficient heat pumps and technology. And from your experience, having previously been in markets before the US and now moving to the US, do you believe clients here are truly starting to get over that curve and be more concerned about energy efficiency and sustainability, or do you still see market here being more price driven?
It depends where you are, right? The US is so big, so wide, that it really depends. So if you're in South Florida, it may be more price driven right? But if you're in California, if you're in New England, uh, it it is not as price driven, I would say, as it is in other parts. So all this sustainability and all of these different features that the new equipment have also play an important role. I'm not saying that it's not happening everywhere. It is, but in some places it's happening faster, and it's definitely taking momentum for sure. ASHRAE is also pushing for that. So it's really something that is non-stoppable now. I believe that maybe we take a few steps back depending on what's going on with the EPA, with different things, but in general, we can take a few steps back, but we're always gonna keep moving forward into this.
No, and I agree with that. It's going to vary from market to market, and from Florida to California to Carolina to New York, Washington, wherever you want to go from one end of the country to another. It's going to be regionally pocketed for different things to happen depending on what's even available resource and energy wise. But as we change the energy grid and we expand and continue with different things, you're going to see it grow in other places more than it is at the moment. So I completely agree with you there.
Totally,
Um,
and so also something to add is that these solutions are not compromising comfort anymore.
no,
Uh,
they're not.
so they're really enhancing it. So if you can improve your comfort, reduce your consumption, like why not, right?
No, I completely agree with you. And the more we see inverter technology and staged equipment technology and variable speed and modulating capacities change, we're only going to see the markets continue to change and improve. And I was lucky enough that I grew up with a father that was very, very attuned to making sure we continued to train and continued to learn new products. And I was putting in mini splits and inverters when I was in high school 20 something
Wow.
years ago, before a lot of people in Western North Carolina even knew what a mini split or an inverter was. So I've always been a massive proponent of pushing for moving this technology to make it more mainstream, because it truly makes homes more comfortable, but they're also more energy efficient. And being in the mountains of North Carolina, we could use these technologies in various different ways and really make systems much more designed to the homes and their environments than just using basic single and two stage equipment.
Totally, I couldn't agree with you more. We are seeing a change that already happened in other parts of the world. It already happened in Europe 15, 20 years ago. It already happened in Asia. It happened in Latin America even, and in the Caribbean. As you know, everything is meta splits
Oh
and
yeah.
inverter technology over there. And now it's happening in the US. So the US took a little longer, but is actually happening. So I think that 2 to 5 years from now, not even in 10 or 15 years, these technology is going to be the standard technology like it is in other parts of the world.
Well, and we've already started getting into a few questions that I'll ask them a little bit differently as we get to it. But let's talk sustainable HVAC technology and zoning with Airzone specifically, whom you work for. So as we dive into Airzone, for those that are unfamiliar with your product and your product offering, what is it that you offer, and how are you helping contractors and clients implement more efficient systems?
So Airzone is a Spanish company, and as a European company, we have been using inverter technology, as we mentioned a few minutes ago, for a longer period of time. So at Airzone, we have developed relationships with all, I would say all, or all, mostly all of the manufacturers out there for inverter technology, and we have access to these manufacturers' protocols. So with these protocols, we can tie and connect into their units and control their units seamlessly. Then this connection was uh, made part of a zoning solution that allows us to connect to ducted inverter units, call it VRF or heat pumps or whatever technology you have there, and we can control the unit temperature, speed, and mode based on how many zones we have in demand. So let's say we have one ducted air handler and we are serving 4 zones in a residential application, maybe a couple of bedrooms, kitchen, and a bathroom. Uh, Based on what zones are open, what zones are being used or not, pretty much demand, which is based on temperature, we can tell the unit to adapt in real time to that demand that we have. So it will adjust temperature and it will adjust fan speed to only um, satisfy these 2 zones that are in demand at the moment. So that is what Airzone has done for the past 15 to 20 years. Of course, at the very beginning, Airzone has been in business since 1997, so almost 28 years now. At the very beginning of 20 plus years ago, we actually had zoning systems that connected to standard single two-stage units, and then it evolved into these zoning systems for inverter and VRF technology. But the interesting part is that like we can connect and control the air handling unit and adapt it to satisfy the zones without even the need of a bypass damper or any pressure sensors or any of that. Then we evolved into more controls. So as time passed, we started making our zoning systems compatible with Wi-Fi apps. We have our own app called Airzone Cloud, then to Alexa and Google Home for voice control, now to BACnet for BMS. Now it's even compatible with smart home and home automation systems like Crestron and Lutron and Savant and all this. So it really evolved into that. Uh, and from that, we created a device. We noticed a few years ago that the HVAC industry was creating better units, right? More efficient, inverter technologies being adopted, all that. But in regards to how do we control those units, the industry is really falling behind. So the IoT world, the Internet of Things, is growing so fast. There's so many ways to connect now. Everything is connected. Even our refrigerators, our washing machines, everything is connected. And HVAC is falling a little bit behind it. I don't blame manufacturers, that's not their expertise. So we created a product family called iDo, and the iDo is pretty much a device that allows you to connect any inverter, ductless, ducted, mini split, VRF unit into the IoT world. So we can connect to Wi-Fi from the most simple, or Alexa, Google Home, smart things for voice control. And again, what I just mentioned, home automation for smart homes through the home automation systems, Crestron, Lutron. We can connect to BACnet. We can connect to Z-Wave and Zigbee for those who are familiar with this. So it really allows you to connect these units into the IoT world. And another thing that we have bridged, which I believe is one of the most interesting and most important breakthroughs that Airzone has made, is we can now connect smart thermostats like Ecobee or Nest into these type of units by using this iDo device. So we have created a way to interact with these thermostats without losing any inverter capabilities, because as I mentioned, we have these manufacturer protocols that allows us to keep the units running as they should. And something that we are now transitioning into, and we will have very soon, is demand response. So by having these manufacturers protocols, we will have an option to connect these units into demand response. So this is going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, and I'll ask a couple of questions based on a lot of that information. So one of the one of the things that people I'm sure would ask or be concerned about is if you're connecting an inverter technology system and you're zoning it, sometimes people get worried about zoning inverters because they think it's not going to work. It can work, but you have to do it the right way. And you can't do it with a single speed air handler. You've got to have a variable speed air handler or modulating air handler that can handle the adjustments and the ups and downs of the moving load and your glazing loads. So, does your control system, does it use, I guess, cycle rate adjustments that you have, or how does that work? Because if, let's say, you were going to use an inverter that was just a 24-volt interface, which a lot of contractors that listen to the show do, and maybe they're using a Honeywell control. If you're going to use something basic like that, the best thing to do is set your cycle rate to 1, so at least you have a longer runtime. So does your zoning technology, the demand, I'm assuming, takes into account, you know, what it needs to do to achieve a certain humidity and temperature over a certain period of time? Is it designed to have longer cycle rates so that it dehumidifies slower, or how does it manage that
No,
logic?
so we actually only work, which is a limitation, I would say, but at the same time is the right thing to do, as you mentioned. We only work with the inverter technology that does not rely on 24 volts. So actually both
Okay.
my outdoor unit, my indoor unit are full inverter. We can have a discussion, which I have many times with a lot of installers and a lot of salespeople, and I would say it's not full inverter, and they say yes, it is. So I would say it's like a kind of a hybrid that work. Those type of units, they work very well, uh, but they are not 100% inverter. That's what I would say. They're kind of a step ahead into getting into that technology. So we only work with this inverter technology, and those that don't rely on the 24 volts. So we would connect to the unit in a specific way depending on which manufacturer we're dealing with, because all of our equipment or all of our systems, they have the original manufacturer's protocol that connects sometimes, and most of the time I would say, in the same port where the manufacturer's thermostat connects.
Gotcha. Why do you think that inverters and zone systems were so much more popular internationally before they were in the US?
Well, I think it is well, I think it is something related, two reasons actually. One thing would be the energy availability, energy concerns, right? Energy cost. In the US, we are really spoiled in a way, I would say. We really don't have energy problems in general, like in other parts of the
Yeah.
world, in which
Yep.
either
Yep. Yep.
energy has to be sourced from most of the time from, maybe in the Middle East. The cost of the energy is very high. So people are more energy focused, for sure. That is one thing. And the other reason why I would say is manufacturers. So manufacturers in the US had been pushing for their older technologies for a very long time, and they weren't weren't being able or willing to adopt these new technologies. So of course they have a lot of power and a lot of name. So until they started to see these inverter technology, zoning technology as business opportunities, as something good to start partnering with, selling, promote, uh, the process was definitely going to be very slow. And we still have a lot of pushback, as you can tell. There's a lot of companies who are still pushing back on zoning for technology, or all of this sustainability and more green initiatives, for sure.
Well, and I think inverters, especially mini splits and high wall systems, I think they took off in Europe and other places also because there was there's nowhere to put what we call traditional ductwork in the United States. There's nowhere to put traditional ductwork in a 200-300-year-old home that's been
Totally.
existing for
Yeah.
a long period of time. You can't just retrofit and suddenly have room to run ductwork. Doesn't work
Yeah,
that
I
way.
totally agree with you. That's true. That is another thing. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
So let's say, I guess, how can HVAC pros leverage zoned systems to really stand out in a market? So let's say your average everyday contractor, he's just getting into using inverter technology because he sees the writing on the wall, what's changing in the industry. How could your average contractor offer better comfort and control to their customers with Airzone as their zoning system of choice? What's up, trade crew? You've heard the buzz, you've seen the press gang at every single AHR. Contractors across the country are ditching their torches for RLS press fittings, and they're not looking back. Why? Because RLS lets you finish faster, safer, and cleaner. From rooftops to mechanical rooms, crawl spaces, and attics, it's a press and go solution that's leak tested, UL recognized, and proudly made in America. Make the switch to RLS and take the heat out of your installs, literally. RLS, rapid locking system, press forward and press on.
Well, that is exactly as you mentioned it, better comfort and control. And then, of course, the savings on top of that. So if someone is uh, willing to replace a unit, or maybe building a home, installing a new unit, most likely that person should be towards installing more efficient unit, right? Something better, something a heat pump, an inverter technology, etc. And then the zoning will add that additional level of control. Like uh, again, I was saying we're very spoiled on energy. If our energy costs, or we were concerned about a lack of energy, then we wouldn't be heating and cooling the whole house. And I always look at mention a very cliche example, but it's really a good example, which is having one thermostat is like turning the lights with one switch at in your home, right? You don't have one light switch, you have four, five, six, 10. So having one thermostat is the same. And even if you look at the energy consumption of your lights today, with all the LEDs and all of this technology that we have, it's really what, 10%, 20% of the consumption at like a lot. The HVAC is actually going to be always 40, 50. So having that zone control is not only a matter of comfort, I would say it's also a matter of conscious, but also efficiency. So it's obvious that it will be efficient. So if you even add a very efficient unit, which is 50% more efficient than your previous unit with a boiler, etc., and then on top of that you add a zone control, then the savings and the comfort will be unimaginable. Unimaginable. That's really what contractors should be telling their customers for sure.
Is there, or what would you say is the easiest way to demonstrate the ROI, return on investment, or long term savings with homeowners moving to Airzone technology versus even
Well, again,
traditional zoning
it
technology?
really, yeah, it really depends. Again, we can, it really depends on where you are, right? If you're in Hawaii, where energy is very costly, then your ROI may be a couple of years. But if you're in uh, North Carolina, which I'm sure is not as expensive, it may take twice. It may take 4 or 5 years. It really depends. But we have different case studies that we made with Airzone that we can showcase. Some of them are on our website, and we even have an energy department that looks into different rebates and incentives that are in different parts of the country through the utilities most of the time, in which we can even help the homeowner, help the contractor, or the project owner to access to these rebates as well as part of it. And then we're always looking for opportunities to showcase, so we can always run some numbers and explain to our customers what the ROI will be, of course.
What's the learning curve for Airzone controls and automation versus traditional, say, the big H or the big E for the other two zoning companies?
It is different. I really don't uh, consider them competitors, to be honest with you, because the type of units in which they are used are different. And Airzone, that's not our playground. We don't
Yep.
connect to single stage to stage type of units, traditional units as we call them. So I
Yep.
really don't consider them a direct competitor, even though I know many contractors who, because of lack of knowledge, maybe are still
Hmm.
using these other manufacturers to connect to. uh, to inverter technology. So if it's inverter technology, is either not doing zoning or going with the Airzone way is the right thing to do, to be honest. So really, I think is knowledge, of course. Regarding installation, I would say it's kind of similar. Of course, we are a little bit more technological, so of course there are a few more rules to follow and guidance, but we are very big on training. So we have online training tutorials, and also we offer on-site and online pre-installation training for all contractors who are going to install AirZone for the first time.
How do your solutions stack up in multifamily or even in commercial and light industrial projects? Where have you seen success in those environments?
So multifamily really depends, because unfortunately, multifamily is very price driven everywhere you go.
Yep.
So as price driven as it is, they usually will go with the lowest cost. So sometimes adding that additional extra controls that will make the life and experience of the people living there will be a little bit tougher to sell. Um, is so multifamily usually when it's more like bigger apartments, bigger townhomes, maybe more on the high end side. Then
Yep.
maybe they will
See that.
also include home automation, radiant in-floor heating control. That's when we could be an opportunity.
I did
In
not realize
case
you
of
did. I didn't realize you did radiant heating controls.
we do,
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt
also.
you.
No, not at all. So actually, yeah, that's something I haven't mentioned, but we also do some supplemental heating control as well. And not only radiant, but also baseboard heating, boilers. So instead of having multiple thermostats, one for each, one for heating, one for the air, you can do one for both and control everything through AirZone. So it's also that also adds a lot of additional savings because now you can combine them in a very efficient way. So
Well, and talking commercial and talking boilers, potentially specifically, are you doing steam controls or are you getting into hydronic management as well?
both, both.
Nice.
Yes, both. So, in answering your question about multifamily, then you asked about maybe commercial, industrial. Industrial, we don't see a lot of opportunities, honestly. But in the, I would say light commercial market, there are opportunities because here we see a lot of office buildings who are
Hmm.
looking towards uh, making the building efficient and healthy and comfortable for the people there, and we see a lot of small offices, right? So in those cases where you have a lot of small offices, everyone with different temperature needs, you have two options. You can either do a traditional VRF, install one ductless unit per zone, which could be more costly. Sometimes it really won't make a lot of sense because of the size of the zones, and then we see a lot of opportunities there to go with ducted units and adding air zone.
Do you have any new projects or pilot programs that you guys are bringing out in California or across North America to start kind of testing what you can do with now that we're into or getting more into 454B and new refrigerants to see if you can kind of see what more efficiency you can pull out of things now?
Yeah, of course. Actually, the refrigerant topic is extremely interesting. Uh, as you know, Europe already transitioned into the new refrigerant a few years ago. So we
Yep.
already, as a company, went through this. A lot of customers and people from the industry had been asking us, like, oh, what do you see the market responded to this? We joke, and some of my colleagues say, "Oh, we come from the future, etc." But we really see the refrigerant topic as an opportunity. Why? Because the VRF is the traditional VRF requires a lot of indoor units, right? And doing units in small zones will no longer be permitted because of the new refrigerant limitations
Yep.
with ACHR 15 and all of that. So a solution for that, instead of changing technologies, instead of maybe going back to um, hydronics, etc., is let's do ducted units. And if we still need or want that independent temperature control, we can add a zoning control. By adding one ducted unit serving multiple zones, you are increasing the releasable area if there is a leak. If your unit is in the space, like let's say a ductless wall mounted unit, your releasable area for a leak is your room, your zone, your office. But if you have a ducted unit in the, let's say, the false ceiling, your releasable area is all the zones that that unit is serving, plus even the plenum where the unit is located. So your releasable area for a leak is much larger. Is something we're implementing on Airzone, which is not ready yet, but will be ready towards the end of the year. So we're looking to have it before 2026. Is that through the protocol of the manufacturer, we're going to read when there is a leak. It's going to be some sort of error code, and we're going to be able to follow the sequence of operations that the units do. We're going to be able to open the dampers, and we're even going to be able to, in our thermostats, show the error that there's the alarm, more than an error, that there's been a leak. In some places it has to blink, in some places it has to have some sound, an alarm sound. So that's really something that we are looking into. We are educating ourselves and our salespeople, our technical people on this topic, because we know how important the new refrigerant transition is. But also we're trying to educate our customers on this and make them think outside the box. So when I sit down and explain to people about these option, like, hey, why don't we do zoning instead of maybe ductless units per zone, they're like, oh, I didn't think about it. So it's just a different way of designing our projects and installing our the VRF.
And looking ahead, that kind of gives great direction for where you guys are going. But do you see any other ways that the Airzone continues to evolve and really support the future of smart, efficient HVAC design, aside from what you've just mentioned in that last comment?
Yeah, of course. So actually, at Airzone, we are always innovating and evolving. Always like to say we are a, not as a zoning system company. We're really a controls company, and evolving into becoming a technology company. So we not only pioneer on different IoT, BMS, PMS, and communication like Zigbee and Z-Wave and some others. But we're also now starting to develop a demand response built in our systems and into our devices. That's a big part of it. And in Europe, we also have a wing of our products focused on indoor air quality. That is something that we have not yet brought into the US, but at some point maybe we will.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to seeing what all that could mean, because it's always interesting to see IAQ products as they continue to develop and evolve. So definitely looking forward to that. As we start to close some of this, you've built your career through education, leadership, and collaboration. What advice would you give to young engineers or future leaders in the HVAC space?
Well, so um, I believe that there are a lot of organizations out there, ASHRAE being one of them, that promotes students and young professionals to be part of. So that is a, a very smart and I would say kind of easy path to get to know people, to get to know companies, to learn, to participate in events, to know what's going on with the industry, because all of these organizations are always keeping the members and the people who participate actively in their events up to date on what's going on with the industry. So definitely joining one of these organizations, and of course, uh, it's very important to always keep educating ourselves on what's new, on what's going on. Uh, there's a lot of events happening all the time, local events, national events, international events, like expos and shows. So those are always fun to go, but also very educational, I would say. So that is what I would suggest to all these young people. And also, keep pushing for what's new. I think that there is a new generation of technicians, engineers, people with different needs, different uh, ways of thinking that is coming into the industry. Some are taking over, and that's really changing not only how we see our products and what needs we have, but also even how we buy. So we see a lot of distributors, a lot of companies going online, using AI to learn about different topics, to learn about our buildings, to improve products. So that is really the advice that I would give to all this younger generation entering our industry.
How do you see partnerships and mentorship playing a role in helping women and underrepresented professionals thrive in HVAC?
So there are also some organizations focused on this. I'm also members of an organization called Women in HVAC,
Yep, my wife
which
is a
is a
member as well.
it's a very interesting organization. A lot of very smart, successful woman. And ASHRAE also has a Woman in ASHRAE event that they do every year. Also at the at the HR Expo during the winter conference, they do some events with I think it's like a breakfast or brunch that they
Mhm.
do. So especially on the woman in which I can speak for myself, right? There's these two options which we can participate, and I think stick together, help each other. That's very important. I'm very happy to see many more women in the industry, and every time I see one, right, we talk, we get together, we try to help each other most of the time, of course. So and that's really fun, and that's very interesting. So it used to be maybe me and maybe another one. Now we starting to see many more, and I'm very happy to see that the younger generations, the new engineers, there's also a lot of girls there, and that's pretty cool.
No, I have made so many women in HVAC friends, not even just through women in HVAC, but women in HVAC in general since putting this show out there 5 years ago, and just watching the industry change and evolve. And it's interesting because you know I worked with, or when I was 5 years old, this is a personal story, but when I was five, I met a lady named Terry Moore. I'll put her whole name out there. She'll probably yell at me at some point if she ever hears this. But I met her when I was five. She was probably, I would say, early 20s. And then later on in my career, in my early 20s, I went to work for a distributor where she also was working. So it's fun to see a woman that stayed in the industry for so many years that also got to be a part of my growth in the industry, and now seeing so many other women in the industry. Where I work now, I work in direct report to a female boss. Most people wouldn't have expected that in distribution and HVAC years ago. So I've always worked very well with women. I like working for a female boss because a lot of times they're more organized. I'll give them that. um, but no, it's been very interesting to see this industry evolve, and I think it truly needs more women in it. You guys help make our industry better as a whole. So I love to see how much you've put into ASHRAE and women in HVAC, and I hope that women as well as men that listen to this show can use that as not just an example, but for motivation to help see our industry continue to change.
Yeah, no, definitely. And well, something fun and something cool is that since we're not that many yet, that's changing. They always remember you. So there are too many times in which people approach you and they remember you. So sometimes you don't even remember who this person is, and but they do remember you because you gave that presentation in front of 12 guys, and you were the only girl in the room, but you were doing the presentation, so they will remember you, and that's fun. We just have to we just have to, I guess, support each other a little more. So yeah.
Well, and thank you so much, Victoria, for taking some time to talk with me and the trade crew today. Sorry, the landscapers are outside, so the dogs are going nuts. But thank you for
No
taking
worries.
some time. Yeah, thank you for taking some time to speak with me and the trade crew. So, where can listeners connect with you and connect with Airzone on social media to follow both you and your company's story?
Well, Raiden, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I've been listening to your podcast, and I'm super excited to be part of it. I was a little bit nervous, not gonna lie, because all of the people that you have interviewed are extremely interesting and have added a lot of value to our industry. So thank you for selecting me for this. I actually appreciate it a lot. At airzonecontrol.com, you can find us, and also you can find me on LinkedIn, Victoria Garcia Massimo. And yes, I'll be there.
So, and definitely do not sell yourself short. This was a lot of fun. This is very interesting, and I think it'll be entertaining and educational to everybody that listens to this. So, everybody, if you're not following Victoria, please go and find her and Airzone on social media, LinkedIn and online. If you're not following HVAC R&D online, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at hvac.rnd. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Tradehounds, and Facebook as the HVAC R&D podcast. Please also make sure to follow the newest R&D bonus show, the HVAC Zoomies, on Instagram at HVAC Zoomies, as well as my co-host Rachel Pline at HVAC Rach. Thank you for listening to the show on your favorite platform, whatever it may be. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button to follow the show. Like and rate the show. Leave me a review. Share me with your friends and your trade crew. Go check out hvacrnd.com and visit the Vendor Hub and the Swag Shop, where you can find more information about our sponsors, AC Products USA, Apprentice Now, JPL Flexible Duct, and RLS Rapid Locking System, as well as get offers and discounts from BetterHelp, Chirp, Service Titan, and SkillCat. If you'd like to work with me or join the show, please click the link to the podcast questionnaire that'll be in the episode description wherever you're listening to your podcast or on social media. So, everyone, have a great weekend, trade crew, and I'll catch you soon. Peace.